Yeah, but Scott, the point also still stands, and what I asked Secretary Clinton about is there are voters who are worried about how to pay for groceries. We heard from Pam Thistle last night. I was obsessed with her at the town hall as she was talking about her experience and what she's weighing. And it's not always, whether or not Donald Trump's going to use the DOJ as his own personal, weapon. She's worried about what it looks like when she's filing her taxes in April.
Yeah, and I would just, this retribution conversation, just remind you all that Joe Biden, the current president of the United States, campaigning in New Hampshire this week, literally said out loud, we got to lock him up.
And then corrected himself immediately.
He said, the president has to be a little more precise, with all due respect. We got to lock him up. So all this conversation, it was Biden this week who made the most news on the retribution front.
So Biden won, Donald Trump 6,982.
And did clarify to say politically.
I would add, too, that he did say today that...
That's a strong defense of Donald Trump.
Let me finish. So everybody rushes to Biden's defense on this. It was
Nobody's
a bad
defense. I think it was a stupid thing to say.
It was a bad moment.
But to your point, there is a reason that 2/3, roughly, of the American people, according to some polling, think we're off on the wrong track. And it largely is what David said. Inflation, cost of food, cost of housing, all of the day-to-day concerns. And so when I hear Hillary Clinton, sort of dismissing, people who want to vote for Donald Trump and not really even mentioning some of the day-to-day concerns of people, it reminds me of why she was so unpopular, why she lost, and why Democrats are struggling to get over the hump in this election.
Well, to be fair, she could have easily won. I think it was 75,000 votes that decided that. When you look
coulda,
at that.
woulda, shoulda.
Scott, obviously, but we've seen democracy resonate as well in the numbers. We're looking at some...
Trump is running to be an American tyrant. He does not understand this country, its history, or what it means to be deeply American. And that's why November 5th, I'm casting my vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
We do not need 4 years of a wannabe king, a wannabe dictator running around trying to punish his enemies. That's not what you need in your life. America's ready to turn the page.
This is not 2016 and it is not 2020. Including because just a few months ago, the United States Supreme Court told the former president that he is effectively immune no matter what he does in the White House. Now just imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails.
There's no science around how do you close, that's the thing, And so to me, the biggest argument against Trump is the whole January 6th argument. I really believe that. If you take politics out of it, get out of your bubble, whatever.
Enough for people like Larry. Yeah. We have one of his generals coming out saying that he talked about Hitler admiringly. All of these things. Kamala Harris last night on CNN said Donald Trump is a fascist.
Yes, and there is a reason for that. And there actually is science around this closing because data shows, the campaign's data that all of the Democratic groups are focusing on, focus groups, all of the things that they're hearing at the doors. I have heard this as well. The January 6th issue is absolutely incredibly compelling, and it moves voters.
It's old news. The Jan 6 deal has been in the market forever. This rhetoric from people saying Trump is a Nazi and a fascist in the market forever. Do you really want to spend your closing statements on old stuff that's already needled into 45% of the country that hates him?
Is it old news,
It's
or
not,
is
though.
or is
Right.
he also now running to? I mean, the problem. It would be old news if he was not running to be president.
Except
again.
think about
I
what
would
you're trying.
say
Think
in the
what
White
you're trying to
Nazis,
replace. You're
yeah.
trying to tell
Nazis
somebody
always relevant.
you
Always
should
relevant.
care
Always
more
makes
about
news. Yeah.
Nazi Trump than the cost of gasoline, your rent, and the protein you buy for your family.
That is literally the argument. Okay,
and I think
yes.
that's a losing
Kevin,
argument.
The argument is you should care more about whether the president of the United States is a fascist and admires Nazis than you should about the cost
really
of gasoline
believes
today.
that?
You don't think that's
No,
a fair
honestly,
argument?
A lot of Americans
I
believe
think the
that.
I don't
argument
think
is-
so.
Yes,
I really
they
don't.
do.
I think the argument is you should care if he's a Nazi.
Yeah.
Yes. You should care if he's pro all sorts of other authoritarians like Viktor Orban and Putin and various others. That's all relevant. But even if you don't care about those things, even if you're more interested in pocketbook issues, he's still not going to be good for your pocketbook.
If I could chime in, a lot of this stuff, hell, I've been discussing this for over a year now on this network. The needle hasn't necessarily moved against a former president. I'm just speaking as a strategist here. There's a reason this race is tied neck and neck. Now, perhaps some people may dismiss it. Perhaps there are other priorities that people are more concerned about. But clearly, that message alone isn't resonating with enough voters to give Vice President Harris a comfortable lead in this race to be able to say, I have this in the bag. She doesn't for a reason.
But see, it's not that message alone. This isn't the only thing that she's talking about. One of the things that I thought was so brilliant last night at the town hall, I will tell you what she's talking about.
I listen, I couldn't understand
Well,
anything.
then you're not listening very well.
I'm trying to.
Last night, what she talked about is that she has a to-do list for the American people, while Donald Trump has an enemies list.
I can't. I think part of the reason why I'm being pushed towards Trump so strongly is that I find that the Democrats and the left just keep going straight to Hitler all of the time with everything. Like it, and if it's not the left pushing Hitler, it's the right pushing Stalin. So it's like we're fighting World War II every single day for every single election. So it's so exhausting. I think it just detracts from, it pushes me away from their position, and it's so hyperbolic that it makes it impossible to have good discussions. And I think it ruins the discourse.
Does anybody think it's valuable or something you want to hear from the vice president? Anybody? Raise your hand if you think this is something that's important for her to be talking about. Anybody?
Introduce the concept of the panel tonight. It's going to be a short dissertation, but I want you to think about this because I watched like you did yesterday, and something hit me pretty hard. Only 90 days ago, Pelosi went to Biden and said, you need to step aside, and convinced him to do so. He made the decision, and he did actually ask her, and we've now learned this, is she the right person to drive this home? He questioned that. He could have said, we need to run a process in order for me to make this move. But they decided not to. I don't know who they is. Was it Obama? Was it Pelosi? I don't care who it was. In stock picking, just listen to this analogy. And you may agree, you may not. 88% of managers, because this is the world I live in, cannot beat the S&P year in, year out. So you give them $1,000, the S&P beats them. They can't pick stocks. This is the second time the Democratic Party has circumvented democracy and chose. That's not true. Yes, it is. Hillary Clinton was chosen, and she had Bruce Springsteen too. And what happened to her? And now we've chosen.
Kevin, Hillary Clinton won a primary. Okay, she won a primary. You may not.
Nobody
like
could compete with her, even Bernie Sanders.
She won a primary.
Okay.
First of all, that's the first
thing.
So
did Kamala Harris win a primary?
Listen, we've talked about this before.
What's wrong about talking about it tonight after what you just saw?
Do you think that's really what matters to voters?
Right now.
How many Democrats wish?
Your whole shtick has
Hang on a second.
Let's talk about what matters to voters. Do you really think voters care about the intranecine primary process?
If you're a Democrat, you sure as hell care today.
I know that you are from Canada, but the primary process.
That's why I'm perfect for this. I have no skin in the game other than to get a great president.
It's not in the Constitution. The political parties can choose however they want to choose their nominee.
Right.
And as long as they meet the legal deadlines in the states where they are on the ballot, they can do it however they want.
But I just
want
to be transparent. Yes, I was born in Canada, but
December 2023 to just handpick somebody.
Just to be transparent, I was born in Canada.
It's a Democratic Party process, not a Democratic.
No, but my kids were born and raised in Boston. All my investments in the United States. I want the president, whoever it is, to be a winner.
You're describing something as undemocratic that has absolutely nothing to do with the Democratic process.
And this is why
anointed.
But I do want to.